I've designed some apparel based on what brides have been asking me for 10 years of experience. And as long as I'm in the creative designing end of it, I just am totally, there's no end to the creative juices that are flowing. But then as soon as I step beyond that, I know nothing about the fashion industry, and it seems like the energy flows. So I keep going back, okay, well, let me stay here. I mean, the energy stops, so I keep going back to, let me stay here where the energy is so present so I can stay in this feeling place, because I know that's where it happens, and I'm waiting for those doors to open that will create the opportunity for me to progress. And sometimes I am sitting in the...
Well, now we want to ask you something here, because we want to understand fully what your motivation is. So, when the idea is born within you, that feels wonderful. And when you explore that idea a little bit, it continues to feel wonderful. And as you stay focused upon it, more ideas come, and it feels more expansive, and the juices really flow, and you have a great day while that's happening. And then what?
Well, I stay there because if I go beyond that into how to make them, how to...
All right, now back up just for a moment. So why would you want to do anything other than stay there?
Well, because they have to materialize.
Why?
Because the idea is to put them on the market for brides to buy.
But if we're just talking about juices flowing, and if we're talking about excuses for life force, then isn't it conceivable that you could just get an idea that could breathe life into you, and you could never be burdened with the manifestational problems that, in other words, is it conceivable that an idea could just be born within you and could keep giving you life? So the place that is known is that the brides have been telling you that they want something, and so their calling has begun to called the idea right through you, and you remember how exhilarating it felt when it came, and then you remember the fun ride you had as you explored it further and explored it further and explored it further, and then it reached the point where it no longer felt utterly satisfying to just be a new idea. It felt like some action needed to be taken about it. So you're on the brink of that. Now what you're wanting to do is, remember earlier we talked about how the contrast gives birth to a desire, and then there's a manifestation which gives more contrast, which gives birth to another desire. In other words, that process never ends. So now you're at this place where you have this wonderful idea that feels wonderful, not so wonderful, wonderful, not so wonderful, because it feels to you like something else now needs to be done about it. Now what your work is now is to take the idea that once felt wonderful, and from your now place of feeling that it's time for you to act on it in some way, bring it back to another wonderful feeling place. So now just ramble with us a little bit about it.
Well, I've met with an artist. I got all of my designs because I didn't feel capable of putting them on paper. I described them in paragraphs, and then I met with an artist who, as I was talking about the description, put them on paper for me. So I have my designs on paper. And then I got on the internet and I started going to fabric mills and trying to learn about fabric and how I envisioned my designs, being in form and what fabric they would be.
All right, now stop for just a moment, and let's talk about this in terms of, now remember, don't lose sight of what your dominant objective is here, because you think that the idea came so that you could get it on paper, so that you can get it on fabric, so that you can get it on the internet, so that you can get it on the brides, so that you can get some dollars from it. In other words, you think that the idea came for the purpose of the manifestation. And it will be that. But what we want you to remember is that the idea has not come for the manifestation. The idea has come for the current that flows through you as you have the idea. So don't try too hard to jump into the creation, making it an actual tangible thing quite yet. Instead, let's try to hold it in the it gives me life. That's why I think about it for just a little bit longer. So the brides gave you the idea, or the brides sort of called the idea. You hashed it over in your mind and came up with some really wonderful ideas, and you felt how good they were as you felt them begin to flow through you in more and more powerful ways. And then you formulated them into words that were so good that you were able to convey them to another who was able then to actually draw them. In other words, can you feel how life-giving all of this is? In other words, these are ideas that are flowing. They're drawing life through you. And so your goal now is to keep it at that stage. So now, where are you in terms of what you think is the next logical action step?
I need to go buy fabric.
All right, now is it really ready for that? In other words, when you sounded a little bogged down on that just a moment ago, as you were talking about you need to examine fabrics, you need to learn about fabrics, you need to know about fabrics, you need to find source of fabrics. In other words, it felt to us like you stepped too far into unknown and you caused it to stop being pleasurable. In other words, you got bogged down because you stepped too far into action, and so now what we would do, we would step back out of that for a while and we would remember this whole thing is about life-giving. Now, we know that many of you would argue with this because when you have an idea that you're taking to market, it is about turning the idea into dollars. We know that. It is about turning the idea into profit. It's about getting something tangible to your consumer. All of that we understand, and we understand why you feel that way. But we want you, just for a little while, to play our silly game with us and accept with us something that we promise you is absolutely true, and that is that every materialization and every manifestation exists only for the purpose of it giving you life. In other words, everything, every relationship, every event, every material object exists only because it is an idea which will summon life through you in the process. So let's milk a little more life out of it for a little while longer before we step into the manifestation of it. So back up, and now stand where you are and start dreaming about fabrics. In other words, go back to your vision. Go back to what you saw in your mind's eye. Go back even to what the artist depicted. In other words, get back into that feeling of that. Don't try to find the perfect fabric to achieve that. Go back into the feeling of that.
That's
because
easy.
the manager will bring the fabric to you. The manager, once the manager, called law of attraction, gets a whiff of what your intent is, the manager knows every fabric on the planet and every person that has their hands on every fabric on the planet. The manager knows how to line you up with anything that is the next logical step. But you must not lose sight of the life-giving properties of your vision. You see, that's what your friend was saying to you about letting it go. And we're not saying, nor was your friend, let go of the vision. We're saying let go of the resistance, which means keep demanding of yourself that you hold yourself in the life-giving properties. If it isn't fun, then it's for nothing anyway, because you cannot have an unhappy journey to a happy ending. It cannot be. There cannot be a happy ending to an unhappy journey. So get back into that place where you are seeing it in your mind's eye and feeling it, and take the vision a little further for us here, verbally, if you will.
The fabric that I have in mind is very exquisite fabric where you can almost see through it, but not quite see through it. So there's a suggestive hint to it so that it's romantic, it's alluring, and it flows easily because the breezes is always here, and it makes beautiful pictures for the flowing. And all of the designs are very easy to wear. They're very comfortable. They make the woman feel very sexual, very intimate, very romantic. And so these designs are, the fabric that I need for them is the fabric that is feels good on the skin, that's very sensuous, that's very high quality, very silky, very easy to work with and flowing. And
now, as you describe that, you're right there. In other words, that description was a life-giving description for you. In other words, and for everyone who is listening, that description was life-giving in nature. So then ask yourself, which feels better, which gives more life, to continue to focus upon the fabric and think about it. You can almost feel it in your hands. Women are almost feeling it on their bodies. In other words, you can almost feel the air moving through it. You can see the light picking up on the reflections in it. In other words, your words were wonderful. We could all feel the fabric. And then take the next thought, I don't know where that fabric is. And feel that I know such a fabric exists. Oh, it opened up again. I don't know where that fabric is. Mm-hmm. You could almost feel pain in that. I know that the fabric exists. I don't know where that fabric is. You can almost feel that. I know that such a fabric exists. I know that these fabrics are in the process of becoming. I know that these fabrics are making their way to me. I don't know where to find them. I'm not sure that I can afford them, or how will I find someone to make them for me on the scale that how will I find an outlet? In other words, you can feel when the thought is opening and closing, can't you? Mm-hmm. And remember, this is the thing we want you to remember. We'll say it again and again and again. We're not giving this to you because we are wanting to lead you to the path of the fabric. We're giving this to you because we're wanting to lead you to the path of the energy flowing, because the fabric has to follow that path, you see.
Yeah.
It can't not come to you.
I really feel the truth of that and experience the truth of that in the other project that is buying this property that we're living on, because every step of the way has been absolutely life-giving. Even though to most people to look at the property that we are in the process of purchasing, they all, oh my God, all they see is work. When my husband and I looked at it, all we saw was opportunity. And even though there have been times where there was so much work at once that it became overwhelming, the overall
Good.
journey of it is...
You can get tired, but you can get rested, and
Exactly.
you can easily find your balance again within it.
Wonderful.
And in fact, the resting and the peacefulness of it would not be as delicious if there were not the countering stress. It's a matter of holding yourself on that peak. In other words, the surfer that Jerry and Esther have been watching all of this time on both islands that they have been visiting is experiencing the contrast and the friction of the wave. In other words, he is finding that poignant place and holding himself upon it as long as possible, and that there is a current or a wave that you can eternally ride that is non-physical in nature. You are understanding all of this. Just relax and enjoy the process. We know that in your physical format, the manifestation that you call finances, or the manifestation that you call dollars, is a very compelling manifestation, because when you step into that outlet where there are plenty of dollars flowing, it seems to open many other outlets and give you a greater sense of ease and flow. But we want you to hear us when we say, you don't have to open that door ever. The energy stream is the flow or the current or the wave that you're really wanting to catch. And we can feel that you've caught it. We can feel it from your words. And if you can just ride it a little longer, in other words, don't ask or demand for manifestations or even evidence that they are coming. And instead, just try a little longer, a little harder to take pleasure from the etheric, intangible, non-physical wave, and it is our promise to you that it will manifest in a very big way for you.
Recently on a tape again, you told a person that if they would spend about 20% more, do you remember that? You told him that if he would effort half as much, he would gain... What
we were saying to him is if he would ratchet back his effort, energy, trying significantly, or even just a little bit, and goose up his visualization reaching for the better feeling place, that the outcome would be dramatic. In other words, when you leverage with energy, it is so much bigger than when you offer physical effort or action, because the power is in the alignment of energy. And that's what the title of this gathering is, The Art of Allowing. It's finding ways to let in all of the things that I've been telling the universe all of the days of this life and so many others that I'm wanting. We want you to feel with us the perfection of this moment. We touched on it earlier before a segment of refreshment, as we say, every moment is capable of coming to that ripe, popping place. Every moment has the capability of yielding to you the answers or the manifestation of anything that you are wanting. The question about whether you're letting it or not only has to do with the ease of which you are allowing it, or the tension with which you are not allowing it. In other words, the time between where I stand and the unfolding of something that I want, the manifestation or the culmination or the actualization of something, that distance in time is only about my level of resistance or my level of allowing. That's all that it's about. And that's why when you're taking pleasure from your vision, as you are envisioning this gossamer fabric, sparkling and light, and yet weighted enough that it takes form, as you are envisioning this perfect fabric and holding yourself in the splendor of the feeling.